So today we will be starting with Indian ethos and business ethics. In the last lecture, we had discussed about the syllabus that is covered under this subject, Indian ethos and business ethics. So first we will take up the definition of what is Indian ethos. Then we will try to discuss the difference between ethos and ethics. What is the difference that we will be discussing? So first we will start with the definition of ethos. I'll read the definition, then we will discuss. So ethos, Oxford defines ethos as the characteristic spirit and belief of community or people which distinguishes one culture from another. Indian ethos is drawn from Vedas, the Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, and Upanishad. So in short, we can say that ethos is the culture which is developed over a period of time, maybe hundreds or thousands of years of practicing it. So that is called as ethos. And as far as Indian culture or Indian ethos is concerned, we have derived this culture from our Vedas, then Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, and Upanishad. So we all are aware that these scriptures, these very important Indian scriptures, they are the founding stone or foundation of the Indian culture. Our culture is based on these great scriptures of Indian culture that we are going to discuss. We are also going to discuss the relevance of these Indian great scriptures in modern management days. Is it relevant today or not? Because these scriptures were written not only hundreds of years ago, but thousands of years ago. The teaching, the learning of these scriptures, is it relevant in the present state? That we are going to discuss. So Indian ethos is very simple. It's a culture which we are practicing, which India is practicing. And this culture we have derived from the great scriptures of Ved, then Mahabharata, then Ramayana, Upanishad, and Bhagavad Gita. The learnings which are mentioned in these scriptures, that also we will be discussing when we will be talking about karma. Now the next one is ethics and ethos. What is the difference between ethics and ethos that we will be discussing? Ethos is a discipline that examines one's morality or moral standard of the society, whereas ethic means expected standard in terms of your personal and social welfare. It includes honesty, morality, and responsibility, etc. So that is the basic difference between the two terms, ethos and ethics. So in simple words, we can say that ethos is what we are practicing depending upon our culture, whereas ethics are the expected standards which we need to follow in our day-to-day life, in our personal life, as well as in our social or working life. Now, in last semester, corporate governance, we have discussed ethics in detail, that what type of standards are to be maintained in industry, that we had discussed. So we will not go into that detail again. So that is the basic difference between ethos and ethics. Now we will talk about the Indian ethos in management. Indian ethos in management refers to the values and practices that the culture of India, which is often called as Bharatiya Sanskriti, can contribute to service, leadership, and management. These values and practices are rooted in Sanatan Dharma, that is also called as the eternal essence, and have been influenced by various strands of Indian philosophy. So during our first session also, we had discussed about the contribution of Indian culture in the field of management. We had discussed that a great Indian economist called Kautilya, who is often also called as Chanakya, his contribution is regarded as one of the greatest and one of the earliest contribution in the field of economics. He was the first, we can say, person or the minister in the cabinet of the king called Chandragupta Maurya, who single-handedly made the king emperor of India, or the most powerful king of the country. And he was the person who implemented the concepts of economics which the modern economic thinkers have introduced way back around 2000 years back. So that was the contribution of the country. He has written a book called Arthashastra around 2000 years back, where all the principles or most of the principles of economics he has elaborated. How a state can be governed, how a country can be governed, how the business in the country should be regulated, what are the various principles of economics. Everything of such type was written in Arthashastra by Kautilya way back around 2000 years back. But somehow we could not preserve, or we could not project the contribution of Indians or Indian philosophers in the field of various fields, particularly in the field of management. So now also, when the research have been carried out, now the world has started taking the cognizance of the contribution of Indian authors or Indian philosophers. So most of the concept in management which we are discussing nowadays were practiced in India. At that time, our country was also called as Golden Bird, Sone ki Chidiya. Why we were called Golden Bird? Because 2000 years back, or maybe more than that, we were considered as a country which was richest in the world, and we were highly civilized at that particular time. So anyone over the world who wanted to do higher studies, they used to come to India to complete their higher studies. That was the contribution of India that we will be discussing. How the principles which were written 2000 years back or more than that, how they are relevant today also, and how they will keep relevant, their relevance in the future also. That we will be discussing in Indian ethos and business ethics. Now, one more example I would like to give you is of the great leader, and he is Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. We all know what contribution he has given, particularly in the state of Maharashtra, as well as in the country as a whole. But as an Indian, we have not recognized the leadership skills or the management concept which were taught by the great leader Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. So instead of we, the other countries like America, like Germany, like Israel, they have recognized his contribution in the field of management way back, and they have made it compulsory in their military training, in their military education. There are chapters related to Shivaji Maharaj. We do not have, but they have started implementing. A specific type of warfare which was introduced by Shivaji Maharaj, that warfare was called as, or still it is practiced, and that warfare was guerrilla warfare. That if we are aware of the fact that the opponent is very strong, then how to shock the opponent or how to surprise the opponent with a sudden attack, unexpected attack. That is being taught in various countries, and that is taught to the army also. Now, this particular concept of guerrilla warfare is also implemented in industry. So it is not only implemented in army, but it is also implemented in industry. That how with a sudden introduction of a new product, a company can disrupt the market of other companies. So these practices which we were implementing in the country, but we could not promote it, or we could not spread it to the general public. But as various historians have written down these principles, these things, these facts, this information, and foreigners or other countries, they took all these great principles or great teachings, great learnings, and they started implementing in their countries. But we failed. But nowadays, we have started realizing the importance of that. And now we have also started implementing those concepts, not only in the other fields like army and other fields, but we have started implementing in business field also, in the field of industry also. So that is how Indian ethos, which is also called as Bharatiya Sanskriti. In those days, India was called as Akhand Bharat. That means we were not the country which is now, but it was we can say larger country or big country in this. We had say Pakistan was included, then Lanka was included, then various other small Bangladesh was not there, it was included. Some part of Tibet was included, some part of Nepal was included, some part of China was included. So that was at that particular time. Later on, because of various things, because of various say fightings, infightings, there were say distribution or breakup of the country. So in those days, we were very much developed. Various practices were there, which only we knew, and later on it was passed to the other countries. That we will be, so Bharatiya Sanskriti, now we will be discussing, can contribute to the service, leadership and management. So leadership and management, we have just discussed that how the concept of leadership, how a person, now if you have read the autobiography, various books which are written on Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, you will very easily find out that he was not a person who was very well built, who was very tall, or who was physically very strong. When we compare Shivaji Maharaj with Afzal Khan or Shivaji Maharaj with Aurangzeb or other Mughal leaders, we can very easily find out that he was physically not as well built as those, as the opponents. But he was having a very sharp mind and great leadership skills. And that was the reason, with a small army, with less ammunition, he was able to defeat the largest army of the country. So those concepts are still relevant, and they are taught, they are practiced in army of other countries. So leadership skills, we have to learn the skills, not by what the foreigners have written, foreign authors have written. Suppose what McGregor has written, what Robert Owen has written, or various foreign thinkers were there, what they have written about leadership. But before that, around 400, 500 years back, our own leader was there who has written various, he has not only written, but he has implemented those concepts, and whatever he had implemented, that become the leadership skills. That was the contribution of Indian ethos in the field of management, and still it is recognized, and it will be recognized in the future also. That was the contribution. If we talk about the business ethics, we were the first who have the proof that we used to follow business ethic in the practices. If we talk about Bhagavad Gita, if we talk about Upanishad, if we talk about Ramayana, if we talk about Mahabharata, the learnings of these great scriptures, they give us the idea of business ethics in particular, that people used to believe in these ethics, in these principles, that honesty is the best policy. that was written way back, thousands of years back in India, that honesty is the best policy. And on this policy, the Western thinkers have started writing what is business ethic and how the business is to be carried out in the modern world. We were carrying out, we were doing business thousands of years back on these principles. Only problem was that we could not spread this information. We could not percolate this information to the other parts of the country or in other countries. And Western thinkers who came to India, they studied these scriptures, they took all the learnings and they wrote their own books, and then they circulated. And once they circulated, we started believing that they are the person who have written these concepts, and they are the person who have initiated the idea called ethics. It was not so. It was there in India thousands of years back. And now, when research are conducted, now we have started believing, yes, it is not the Western countries, it is we who have initiated these concepts. So that was the contribution of Indian ethos in the field of management. Am I audible to all?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. In case of any query, please stop me and you can raise your query. Now, the next point we will be discussing is related to what is Indian ethos for management. Under that, we will be talking about the application of principles of management revealed in our ancient wisdom described in Upanishad and Gita. The following basic principles of management are as per the ancient Indian wisdom and insight. Each soul is a potential God. Holistic approach, equal importance to subjectivity, objectivity, karma yoga is also called as selfless work. That is what our contribution is in the field of management. So now we will be discussing the three important things. First one is that each soul is a potential of God. So the following basic principles of management are as per the ancient wisdom and insight. तो हमारा जो प्राचीन संस्कृति है, हमारा जो कंट्रीब्यूशन है, वो किस पर आधारित है, that we will be discussing now. Each soul is a potential of God, is a potential God. तो गीता में ये लिखा गया है, उपनिषद में ये लिखा गया है, रामायण और महाभारत में भी ये लिखा गया है कि हर व्यक्ति में भगवान है, हर व्यक्ति में भगवान का कुछ ना कुछ अंश है. The only country where these great scriptures are written, the meaning of the scripture is that human beings are compared with God. It is based on the principle that soul means आत्मा. तो हमारी जो आत्मा है वो उसमें परमात्मा का अंश है. Whereas if we talk about any other country, you take about America or any other, कहीं पर भी इस बात का उल्लेख नहीं मिलेगा आपको कि जहां पर ये लिखा गया हो, जहां पर ये प्रैक्टिस किया गया हो कि आत्मा परमात्मा का अंश है. That our soul is having a potential of God. That is the contribution. How we recognized human being. Next is holistic approach, equal importance to subjectivity and objectivity, and karma yoga. बचपन से हमारे को बताया जाता है, हमारे माँ बाप ने हमें बताया, उनके माँ बाप ने शायद उनको बताया होगा, उनके माँ बाप ने उनको बताया होगा, हम लोग आपको बताएंगे, आप अपने बच्चों को बताएंगे. एक प्रिंसिपल, बहुत कॉमन प्रिंसिपल है, एंड दैट प्रिंसिपल इज कॉल्ड एज कर्मयोग और सेल्फलेस वर्क. हम लोग बचपन से सुनते आ रहे हैं कि कर्म करो, फल की चिंता मत करो. तो ये ऐसा नहीं है कि अभी सिलेबस में इंक्लूड हुआ 2019 पैटर्न में, इसीलिए अभी लिखा गया है. ये शायद 5000 साल पहले या उससे भी पहले लिखा जा चुका है कि कर्म करो, फल की चिंता मत करो. अगर आपके कर्म अच्छे होंगे तो फल आपको अच्छा ही मिलेगा. फल देर से सही पर मिलेगा जरूर. ये पहले ही लिखा जा चुका है. वी आर नॉट स्टडिंग as Pune University has included it in 2019 pattern, or someone from Western country has written this. It is our own country people, thousands of years back, they have written this principle, which is called as selfless work. Indian ethics is based on selfless work. कर्म करो, फल की चिंता मत करो, फल की आशा मत करो. कि इसका क्या मतलब हुआ कि अगर आप मुझे 1000 रुपए दोगे तो मैं आपका काम करूंगा, नहीं तो नहीं करूंगा. दैट इज नॉट सेल्फलेस वर्क. मैं अपना काम करूंगा, मुझे पैसे अपने आप मिलेंगे, जब मिलेंगे तब मिलेंगे, या जो भी उसका फल है जब मिलेगा तब मिलेगा, पर निस्वार्थ भाव से मैं काम करूंगा. दैट इज कॉल्ड एज सेल्फलेस वर्क. Now, in this COVID situation also, we have seen that there were many people in this pandemic situation also. They were out in public and they were trying to help the public. Why they were trying to help the public? Why they were facing the danger of infection? Why they were investing their own hard-earned money in giving them various facilities, in giving them food, in giving them water, in giving them other facilities? Because it is our culture, and that is called as selfless work. अगर ऐसा सोचा रहता उन्होंने कि नहीं अभी तो मुझे क्या करना है, घर के अंदर लॉकडाउन है, घर में बैठे रहो, पैसा बहुत है, खाना है, राशन है, खाओ पियो आराम करो. पर ऐसे बहुत से लोग थे कि उनके पास पैसा काफी था, फिर भी घर पे आराम करने की जगह वो बाहर निकले, अपना पैसा दूसरों पे इन्वेस्ट किया. तो फिजिकली एंड financially they were involved in helping others. There were people who were financially not sound, but they helped the people in other ways. ऐसा नहीं कि सिर्फ पैसे से ही मदद हो सकती, कुछ और भी तरीके थे जिससे मदद की गई. कुछ लोगों ने दवाइयां बांटी, कुछ लोगों ने पानी की बॉटल्स बांटी, कुछ लोगों ने खाना बांटा. So this is called as selfless work. They were not expecting anything. Without any expectation, they were ready to help. One more incident. When the lockdown was announced first time, the first lockdown was announced by the government. Before that, the Prime Minister had made an appeal on television. It was shown on television. And that appeal was to the general public that those who can contribute shall contribute towards the Prime Minister Relief Fund. And that fund will be used for the welfare of COVID patients. That was the appeal of the Prime Minister. And immediately that appeal, a great industrialist called Ratan Tata, he immediately transferred 1,200 crore rupees. Or it is not 1,200 crore. I think it is 12,000 or 1,200. I'm not very sure. Sorry. So he immediately transferred that amount. Now, why he transferred that amount? It was his earned income. It was not compulsion on him. But as he believed in the principles of what? Selfless work. That was the reason why he immediately handed over the money, and he informed the PM office, Prime Minister also, that in case you require more money, I am ready to share more money. I am ready to sell my property also to save my countrymen. That is called as selfless work. That is called as कर्म योग. वहां पर उन्होंने ये नहीं बोला, रतन टाटा ने, कि ये तो मेरा पैसा है, मैंने दिन रात मेहनत की है, मैं तो कंट्री को टैक्स दे रहा था, तो जितना मुझे करना चाहिए था वो मैंने सब किया है, ये अब मेरा पैसा है, इस पे किसी का अधिकार नहीं. पर उन्हें ऐसा लगा कि मुझे कंट्री के लिए कुछ करना चाहिए, लोगों के लिए अपने कुछ करना चाहिए, इसलिए इतना बड़ा अमाउंट immediately he was ready to share. There were many film stars, many businessmen who immediately shared the money. There were various film stars, particularly if we all know the contribution of Sony Sood. फर्स्ट लॉकडाउन में क्या किया, जब लोगों को पता नहीं था, सब बसेस बंद थी, सब बंद था, लोगों के पास जाने के लिए पैसे नहीं थे, हजारों लोगों को एक व्यक्ति ने किराए की बस करके, वो बस का पूरा भाड़ा भर के फ्री में मुंबई से घर पहुंचाया या अलग अलग जगहों से अपने अपने घर पहुंचाया. एंड दैट इज कॉल्ड एज सेल्फलेस वर्क. दैट इज कर्मयोग. कि कर्म करो, फल की चिंता मत करो. So Indian contribution in the field of management is through these principles. The other principles also we will be discussing in the later part of the session. So these are the principles, some of the principles. Holistic approach, we all are aware of. Holistic, what is the meaning of holistic approach? Now, holistic approach again is an approach where in that if I am in a position to help someone, I should definitely help without expecting anything in return. That is holistic. That is spiritual. Now, this is in detail what we have discussed so far, that each soul is having a potential of God. A human being has a soul and a spark of divine. The divine resides in the heart of a person, that we have discussed so far. Holistic approach, that is also we have discussed, and this equal importance to subjectivity and objectivity, that also we have discussed. Karma yoga we have discussed. Now we will be discussing the components of Indian ethos and Indian belief, that now we will be discussing. The first point is ego sublimation rather than ego assertion. Ego sublimation rather than ego assertion. Next, we will be discussing sacrificing the spirit rather than sacrificing spirit rather than the fighting spirit, then team achievement rather than individual achievement, spiritual attainment rather than material prosperity, self control rather than outside control, concept of duties rather than duties of concept of rights, yielding rather than dominating, then concern of this age world and improvement, and respect for the search of all truth, whatever be its source. So that we will be discussing in detail the components of Indian ethos. So first one, ego sublimation rather than ego assertion. Can anybody give me the meaning of sublimation? What is sublimation? Am I audible to all? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, thank you. Yes, anyone who can give me the meaning ego sublimation? What is ego sublimation? What is ego? What is ego? We all are aware of the meaning of ego. We often use this word called ego. है ना, हम लोग बातें करते करते कई बार बोलते हैं अरे उसमें तो बहुत ईगो है, उसमें ईगो कूट कूट के भरा है, वो बहुत ईगोइस्टिक है. व्हाट इज दैट ईगो? ईगो का क्या मतलब है, बताइए. बहुत सिंपल है, सबको पता है.
ओवर कॉन्फिडेंस.
हाँ,
ओवर कॉन्फिडेंस और एटीट्यूड.
ओके, ओवर कॉन्फिडेंस, एटीट्यूड और और क्या? और क्या? Yes, anyone else? So, ego is a concept where one starts believing that whatever I know is correct, or I know everything, and the other person is not knowing anything, or my thoughts, my thinking, my views are the most appropriate and they are to be accepted by the others. So that is the normal meaning of ego, term ego. Now, ego sublimation and ego assertion is, ego assertion means when you are trying to force your views on others. Suppose if manager is working in an organization, as he is having that commanding position, he asserts or he gives instructions, firm instructions or firm orders, and that are to be accepted by all the subordinates. Even if some of the policies, some of the orders, some of the instructions, they are not good in the interest of the organization, still, as he is controlling the organization, he believes might is right, whatever I say is to be followed. So that will be called as ego assertion. Even if wrong information is there, if some say mistake is there in the instruction, but still the other fears because of the position of the manager, because of the commanding nature of the manager. So they are not able to bring it out to the notice of the manager that these are the problems with your decision. That is called as ego assertion, जहां पर मैनेजर कभी सुनने के लिए भी तैयार नहीं. मैं मैनेजर हूं, मुझे सब पता है, मेरे पास अथॉरिटी है, जो मैं बोलूंगा वो सही है. That is ego assertion. Ego sublimation is that here manager is ready to accept the views of others, and that is Indian culture. Now, thousands of years back, when there were no prime minister and president in the country, we were ruled by kings. You take example of any great king. You take example of Shivaji Maharaj. You take example of Raja Dashrath, Harishchandra, Chandragupta Maurya. Any great leader, any great king, you take the example. And the most common thing among these great kings who ruled the country, the most common thing is that they always took the views of their ministers before coming to the conclusion over a decision. Now, if you know how Shivaji Maharaj used to work in his ministries or in his what we call as court, अपने दरबार में वो कैसे करते थे, तो there were various ministries which were allotted to different ministers. That food ministry, जैसे आज है food ministry, वैसे ही उस समय भी था 400-500 साल पहले, कि एक व्यक्ति को चार्ज दिया गया फूड मिनिस्ट्री का, जो पूरे राज्य में कितना राशन होना चाहिए, कितना स्टोर करके रखना चाहिए, कि अगर अचानक से कोई कैलेमिटी आई तो कैसे जनता को हम लोग राशन प्रोवाइड कर सकेंगे. All that system was there 400-500 years back also, or maybe in thousands of years back also there was a system. So before taking any decision related to food items, the king used to counsel or take the opinion. Sorry, he used to take the views, take the opinion of the minister, and then he used to decide. ऐसा नहीं होता था. शिवाजी महाराज ने कभी ये नहीं समझा कि I am the king, I have conquered the all Maharashtra and other parts of MP and Karnataka and other states also. So I am the king, whatever I will feel, I'll take the decision. No need for any consultation, no need for any opinions. That was not so. That is why he is regarded as one of the greatest king in the country. So they used to take the opinions, they used to take the suggestions. Now, 2000 years back, if we talk about Vikramaditya, who was later on, he was given this say title of Vikramaditya. Before that, before he got the title of Vikramaditya, the king was called as Chandragupta Maurya. You might be aware of. कहाँ के थे चंद्रगुप्त मौर्य? हिस्ट्री में सबने पढ़ा होगा शायद. Anyone who can give me the name of the state which was ruled by Chandragupta Maurya? बताइए, चंद्रगुप्त मौर्य कहाँ के थे, कहाँ के राजा थे? लेटर ऑन ही वॉज डेजिग्नेटेड एज विक्रमादित्य और पूरे भारत पे राज किया, एंड हिज प्राइम मिनिस्टर वॉज चाणक्य, और he was also called as yes, which was that place? मेरी आवाज आ रही है आप लोगों तक?
Yes, sir.
हाँ,
I think in
anyone?
MP.
Magad.
हाँ, मगध कहाँ? आज का मगध मतलब मगध उस समय का मगध, आज किधर? करेक्ट, मगध, that was Magad Raj. Nowadays it is Bihar and
UP.
Bihar and Jharkhand and some part of UP also. So there also, when he became the greatest, one of the greatest king, and he conquered the other small kings and he spread his kingdom to the other parts of the country also, there also there was a system of division of power, and that is mentioned in Arthashastra by Chanakya. There was a system. The ministers in those days, they were called as Amatya. Amatya used to mean the ministers, and they used to give suggestion to the king that this is what is happening in the country and this is how we can improve the living standards of our people. We can make our country more stronger. So that used to happen in those days also, and that is called as ego sublimation over ego assertion. तो जितने भी ग्रेट किंग हुए, किसी ने भी ये नहीं बोला कि नहीं मैं तो राजा हूं या मैं तो सम्राट हूं, मैं चक्रवर्ती सम्राट हूं। जब मैंने सारे देशों को जीत लिया है, सारे राज्यों को जीत लिया है, तो मुझे अब किसी की सुनने की जरूरत नहीं। किसी भी ग्रेट लीडर, किसी भी ग्रेट राजा ने ये नहीं बोला। सब राजाओं ने डिवीजन ऑफ पावर हजारों साल पहले करके रखा कि अकेला राजे के बस की बात नहीं है कि पूरे देश में पता चला है कि क्या चल रहा है। इसीलिए डिवीजन ऑफ पावर की गई, इसीलिए मिनिस्टर्स रखे गए, इसीलिए मिनिस्टर्स ने ग्राम लेवल पे, गांव के लेवल पे, तहसील के लेवल पे ऑफिसर्स अपॉइंट किए गए। तो ये आज कॉलोनियल ईरा, मतलब अंग्रेजों ने आके हमको सिखाया और हम सीखे कि ग्राम पंचायत कैसी होनी चाहिए या तहसील ऑफिस कैसा होना चाहिए या गवर्नमेंट ऑफिशियल्स कैसे होने चाहिए। दैट इज नॉट द केस। इट वाज देयर इन द कंट्री विच वी वर प्रैक्टिसिंग थाउजेंड्स ऑफ इयर्स बैक। दे got to know about these principles from us and then they started teaching us. The only problem was we could not save the scriptures or we could not spread the messages of the scripture to the general public. जो गीता की सीख है वो जितनी पहुंचनी चाहिए लोगों तक उतनी पहुंच नहीं पाई। जो उपनिषद लिखे हुए हैं उनकी जो टीचिंग है, जो महाभारत है, जो रामायण है, ये जो जनरल पब्लिक तक जाना चाहिए, जिसकी लर्निंग्स वो नहीं जा पाई। एंड दैट वाज द मेन रीजन व्हाई the Britishers, they cashed on this information and they started teaching us how to govern a country. उन्होंने हमारे को सिखाना शुरू किया, जबकि उल्टा था। हमने सबको सिखाया पूरे वर्ल्ड को कि how to govern the country, right? So that was the contribution. What's the time now?
So 7:55.
7:55. Okay, we will take one or two more points and then we will stop. In the next sessions, please come prepared for this. This is a very interesting subject, and mostly it is related to our history. And it is not the recent history we are talking about. It is the history when we were called golden bird. जो हमारा प्राचीन इतिहास है, जहां पर सोने की चिड़िया भारत को कहा जाता था, जहां पर जितने भी लोग आए, if we talk about Alexander the Great, if we talk about say various others, and later on when the Mughal conquerors, Mahmud Ghaznavi, Muhammad Ghori, so when they started coming in also, in those days also we were called as golden bird. महमूद गजनवी एंड मोहम्मद गौरी, दे यूज टू से हाथी के ऊपर, इतिहास में हम लोगों को स्कूल में था, शायद आपको भी स्कूल में रहेगा ये सब, कि हाथी के ऊपर भर भर के सोना यहाँ से लेके गए, कि इतना सोना था और इतना हमारे पास क्या मतलब इतना रिच हमारा हेरिटेज था, इतना रिच हमारा कल्चर था कि सब ले गए. Anyone who has heard about Nalanda and Takshashila? किसी ने सुना है नालंदा एंड तक्षशिला?
No, sir, I haven't heard.
अच्छा, anyone who has heard, please
Sir,
Google.
actually, yes, sir. Nalanda, I can only know about the university, the first university, Nalanda
Very
Vishwavidyalaya.
good. हाँ, नालंदा विश्वविद्यालय, तक्षशिला.
Yes, sir.
These were the highest rated research centers of the world. Highest rated and the oldest research centers. जहां पर इतनी किताबें थी और इतनी अच्छी अच्छी बुक्स थी कि जो पूरे वर्ल्ड में कहीं नहीं थी. तो बाहर से लोग आते थे और वो यहाँ पर पढ़ के जाते थे. गूगल इट कि क्या था कंट्रीब्यूशन तक्षशिला और नालंदा का. बाद में वो सब जला दिया गया, सब डिस्ट्रॉय कर दिया गया. अगर वो डिस्ट्रॉय नहीं किया होता और अगर वो इंफॉर्मेशन, वो ग्रंथ, वो किताबें, वो अगर सब रहता और अगर पढ़ के अगर सब इम्प्लीमेंट हुआ रहता, तो वी वुड हैव बीन नंबर 1 इन द वर्ल्ड. साइंस और टेक्नोलॉजी में जितनी तरक्की हमने की थी उतनी किसी ने भी नहीं. I don't know how many of you regularly watch History, National Geography, and the other channels. On number of occasions, they have shown there was a program. I'm not sure whether it was on History or National Geography or Discovery, called Ancient Alien. अगर आप में से किसी ने एंशिएंट एलियन देखा हो तो उसमें कई बार इंडिया के ऊपर भी प्रोग्राम्स आए हैं, जिसमें वेस्टर्न जो एक्सपर्ट्स हैं, वेस्टर्न जो रिसर्चर्स हैं, जो वेस्टर्न साइंटिस्ट हैं, उन्होंने रिसर्च के आधार पे बताया कि हाउ टेक्नोलॉजिकली एडवांस्ड इंडिया वाज thousands of years back. So there are proofs, there are evidences that Ram Setu existed. It is not that only it is written in some story कि महाभारत में किसी ने लिखा है, तुलसीदास जी ने लिख दिया है कि राम सेतु का निर्माण हुआ था. There are proofs, there are evidences, and now the scientists have also accepted the fact that there existed a Ram Setu in sea. So just think that thousands of years back, when there was no technology, there were no machines, how it was possible to build a bridge on sea. And that was the contribution of Indian technology. There are proofs. There are proofs in Sri Lanka which are being researched now also, that Ravan ki Lanka existed in reality. Ravan had a plane called Pushpak Viman. So thousands of years back, we were having the technology of plane. In Ramayana also we have seen, we know that as it was not possible for Ram to reach Ayodhya because 14 years was coming to the end, and Bharat has taken a vow that if after 14 years, if Ram does not come to Ayodhya, he will sacrifice his life. So as it was not possible in those days, cars and all these things were not there. People used to travel by bullock cart or horse cart or the with their foot, पैदल चलते थे. तो वहां पर भी उसका वर्णन है कि भगवान राम ने पुष्पक विमान में बैठ के वहां से श्रीलंका से वो अयोध्या तक आए. So scientists have now started accepting the evidences that yes, it all existed. The things which are mentioned thousands of years back in Ramayana and in Mahabharata, we have heard of Brahmastra. What was Brahmastra? Now the scientists are saying that Brahmastra was nothing, but that Brahmastra was modern day nuclear weapon. So we were having that technology that time also. So we were very rich. So Indian culture, Indian ethos is very rich. Only thing is we could not spread that. We could not realize the importance of that. And now we have started realizing. And now we have started studying the contribution of India in the field of management. This is what we will be discussing throughout this subject. So come prepared. It is very interesting. Google is having enough of information. Try to Google these information. You will find new information, new knowledge. So it will be good for you if you come prepared. It will be good for me also, because we can have a discussion also, right? So we will stop here. In tomorrow's session, we will try to complete the components of Indian ethos and Indian belief, and then we will move to the another slide or another point. Just take a screenshot of this so that you can come prepared for this, for tomorrow's discussion. So thank you everyone for being present in today's session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.